Welcome to Crime Case Confidential. In this episode, we delve into a tragic and unsettling case that shocked the quiet suburb of Willowbrook, Illinois, in late July 2017. This is the story of Jennifer Thompson, a dedicated school counselor whose life was tragically cut short by a sinister plot involving her husband and their adopted daughter. Jennifer Thompson was a 50-year-old school counselor who lived in Willowbrook, Illinois. Known for her kind heart and dedication to her work, Jennifer was a beloved figure in her community. She had a special gift for connecting with students, which made her a standout counselor at Willowbrook High School. Jennifer's colleagues often spoke about her compassion and patience. She was the counselor who would stay late to comfort a troubled student or to talk with worried parents. Jennifer had a unique perspective on life, having struggled through her own challenges in her youth. This personal history drove her to help others, especially teenagers dealing with emotional and familial issues. Jennifer was married to Dr. Mark Thompson, a botanist at the University of Illinois. They had been married for over 20 years and were well known in the community. Though they had no biological children, they had adopted several over the years. Their most recent adopted child was Amanda Walker, who had turned 18 just a few months before Jennifer's death. Jennifer was very close to Amanda, treating her as her own daughter and supporting her plans to attend the University of Illinois in the fall. In the days leading up to her death, Jennifer was busy with her usual activities, including organizing a charity event at her local church, St. Paul's Lutheran Church, where she was a devoted member. Her friends recalled how excited she was about an upcoming summer picnic planned for the students in her care program. Jennifer's life was a beacon of hope and kindness, making her tragic end all the more shocking and mysterious for everyone who knew her. It was late at night on July 29, 2017, when the peaceful suburb of Willowbrook was jolted by a horrifying discovery. Jennifer Thompson's body was found in the backyard of her home. The time was around 10:30 p.m. The person who found her was a neighbor, Mary Simmons. Mary had come over to return a casserole dish she had borrowed earlier in the week. As she approached the house, she noticed the back gate was open, which was unusual. Mary decided to check if everything was all right. She walked into the backyard and found Jennifer lying on the ground, motionless. Jennifer's body was partially hidden by the tall garden plants she had lovingly tended. Mary's first reaction was shock. She dropped the dish and screamed, her voice echoing through the quiet neighborhood. She quickly pulled out her phone and dialed 911, her hands shaking as she tried to explain what she had found. The emergency operator calmed Mary down and got the necessary details. Mary described how Jennifer looked. She was covered in dirt, and there was a scarf around her neck. When the police and paramedics arrived, they found Mary visibly shaken, but able to give a statement. Officer John Martinez, one of the first on the scene, described Mary as pale and trembling, her voice barely a whisper as she recounted the events. The backyard was quickly cordoned off with yellow police tape as investigators began their work. Jennifer's body was carefully examined. The medical examiner, Dr. Susan Ackerman, noted the severe head injuries and the strangulation marks on Jennifer's neck. She confirmed that Jennifer had been bludgeoned with a garden tool and then strangled with a scarf. The scene was gruesome, with blood spatters on the garden pathway and the garden tool lying nearby, partially hidden under a bush. News of the murder spread quickly through Willowbrook. People were shocked that something so terrible could happen in their quiet suburb. Friends and family gathered outside the Thompson home, comforting each other and trying to make sense of the tragedy. Jennifer's death was a harsh blow to the community. She was a beloved figure, and the brutality of her murder left everyone in a state of disbelief and fear. The police promised to find out who was responsible for this heinous crime and bring them to justice. The police arrived quickly at the Thompsons' home on July 29, 2017. By 11 p.m., the quiet neighborhood of Willowbrook was buzzing with activity. Officer John Martinez, along with Detective Linda Simmons and Detective Mike Foster, led the investigation. Detective Simmons, a 10-year veteran of the force, was especially known for her keen eye for detail. Detective Foster, her partner, was equally experienced and meticulous. The crime scene was a mess. Jennifer Thompson's body lay in the backyard, surrounded by her garden plants. Blood was splattered on the garden pathway, and a garden tool lay nearby, partially hidden under a bush. The scarf around Jennifer's neck was still tightly wound. The detectives immediately began to secure the area, putting up yellow police tape to keep curious neighbors and onlookers at a distance. Detective Simmons took the lead in examining the body. She noted the severe head injuries and the clear marks of strangulation on Jennifer's neck. It was evident that Jennifer had been bludgeoned with the garden tool and then strangled with the scarf. The brutality of the crime was shocking. The first suspect the police investigated was Dr. Mark Thompson, Jennifer's husband. Dr. Thompson, 55, was a botanist at the University of Illinois. He studied plants and was well known in his field. To the outside world, he seemed like a mild-mannered and hard-working man. However, some in the community found him distant and socially awkward. When the police arrived at Mark's workplace to question him, he was in his lab, working late as usual. He seemed calm and cooperative. Mark told the police he had been at work all day and only came home late in the evening. He claimed to have found the house empty and assumed Jennifer was out visiting friends. Detective Simmons and Foster interviewed Mark in a small, cluttered office at the university. Mark appeared calm, but showed little emotion when discussing his wife's death. He described his relationship with Jennifer as good and normal. However, the detectives noticed that he avoided making direct eye contact and seemed uncomfortable when they asked about his personal life. The police were particularly interested in Mark's recent behavior. They discovered that Mark had married Amanda Walker, their adopted daughter, in a small ceremony just 6 days after Jennifer's death. This raised many red flags. Marrying so soon after his wife's brutal murder seemed extremely suspicious, and definitely earned him the title of creepiest man in Willowbrook. Mark calmly explained that he and Amanda had developed feelings for each other over time, and that the marriage was their way to move forward after Jennifer's death. The police pressed Mark on this point, asking if Jennifer knew about his relationship with Amanda. Mark admitted that Jennifer had recently become suspicious and had confronted him about it. He claimed that they had argued, but insisted he had nothing to do with her death. The second suspect the police investigated was Amanda Walker, the Thompsons' adopted daughter, and also Mark's new wife. Amanda was 18 years old and had lived with Jennifer and Mark since she was 17. She had a troubled past, growing up with a violent alcoholic father. Despite these hardships, Amanda was an academically gifted student and had plans to attend the University of Illinois in the fall. The police found Amanda packing up the small apartment that Mark and Jennifer had rented for her when she turned 18. Detective Linda Simmons and Detective Mike Foster visited her there to ask questions about Jennifer's death. Amanda was quiet and reserved during the interview, traits her teachers and peers often mentioned. She appeared deeply affected by the events, but her answers were calm and straightforward. Amanda told the detectives about her relationship with Jennifer, describing her as a kind and loving mother figure. She said Jennifer had always supported her, especially in her academic pursuits. When asked about Mark, Amanda admitted that they had developed feelings for each other and that Mark had treated her to a lavish dinner at a fancy restaurant for her 18th birthday. It was during this dinner that Mark confessed his love for her and said Jennifer was just a nuisance. The police found it unusual that Amanda married Mark just days after Jennifer's death. Amanda explained that they were in love and wanted to move on with their lives. She insisted she had no involvement in Jennifer's murder and that she had been at home studying on the night of the crime. Her alibi was that she had spent the evening alone, preparing for her upcoming university courses. Detective Simmons noticed that Amanda's answers were consistent, but sensed a lingering fear in her demeanor. Amanda seemed genuinely saddened by Jennifer's death, but also appeared to be hiding something. The detectives asked Amanda about her thoughts on Mark's behavior after Jennifer's death. Amanda hesitated, but then said Mark had been supportive and caring, helping her through the difficult time. The third suspect the police investigated was Samuel Cohn, a 43-year-old refugee from Sierra Leone. Samuel had moved to America with his 4 children after losing his wife during the Civil War. He found work as a janitor and rented a small apartment in Willowbrook. Samuel's connection to the Thompson family came from a dispute with Dr. Mark Thompson, who was his former landlord. Samuel had been evicted from his apartment by Dr. Thompson just a month before Jennifer's death. Detectives Linda Simmons and Mike Foster went to interview Samuel at his new apartment. Samuel was cooperative but visibly upset about the eviction. He spoke about the challenges of starting a new life in America and the hardship caused by losing his apartment. Samuel described how difficult it had been to find a new place to live while trying to keep his job and take care of his children. During the interview, Samuel appeared calm but frustrated when discussing Dr. Thompson. He admitted he was angry about the eviction, but denied any involvement in Jennifer's murder. Samuel explained that on the night of the murder, he was at work. His employer confirmed that Samuel had been working his usual night shift as a janitor at a local office building. The police checked Samuel's alibi and found it to be solid. His time card showed he had clocked in and out at the correct times, and security footage confirmed his presence at the building throughout the night. Despite his anger towards Mark, there was no evidence linking Samuel to the crime scene. On August 5, 2017, a week after Jennifer Thompson's murder, the police received a crucial piece of new evidence. The forensic lab had analyzed the garden tool found at the crime scene and discovered fingerprints that didn't belong to Jennifer or Mark. These fingerprints belonged to Amanda Walker. The police immediately revisited the Thompson home to gather more evidence. During the search, they found a hidden compartment in the garage. Inside, there were several personal items belonging to Amanda, including a notebook. This notebook contained detailed entries about her relationship with Mark and her growing frustration with Jennifer. One entry, dated just days before the murder, expressed anger towards Jennifer for being a nasty obstacle and mentioned a plan to remove her from the picture. The police also found a pair of gloves in Amanda's apartment that tested positive for traces of Jennifer's blood. This evidence suggested that Amanda had worn the gloves while handling the garden tool, explaining why her fingerprints were only found on the weapon and not elsewhere at the crime scene. With this new evidence, the police called Amanda in for another round of questioning. This time, they confronted her with the notebook and the blood-stained gloves. Amanda's demeanor changed drastically. She became visibly nervous and struggled to maintain her composure. She initially denied any involvement, but the mounting evidence made it difficult for her to keep her story straight. Amanda eventually broke down and confessed to being present at the crime scene, but insisted that Mark was the one who had killed Jennifer. She claimed that she had tried to stop him, but was too scared to report the crime. Amanda's confession added a new layer to the investigation, indicating that Mark and Amanda might have been co-conspirators. The police reviewed Amanda's confession and the new evidence carefully. They realized that while Amanda's involvement was now clear, they still needed to determine Mark's exact role in the murder. The focus of the investigation shifted to proving Mark's participation and understanding the full extent of their plans. Hey, crime case solvers! Interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel, and if you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate, leave us a comment. Stay safe, crime case solvers. On August 10, 2017, the police felt they had enough evidence to arrest Dr. Mark Thompson for the murder of his wife, Jennifer. The detectives planned the arrest, knowing Mark was teaching a class at the university. They decided to confront him there. At 10 a.m., Detective Simmons and Foster arrived at the campus. They waited outside his lecture hall until he finished his class. As Mark exited the room, the detectives approached him, identified themselves, and informed him that he was under arrest for the murder of Jennifer Thompson. Mark's reaction was a mix of shock and resignation. He tried to maintain his composure, but couldn't hide his surprise. The students and faculty nearby were equally shocked as they watched the arrest unfold. The detectives handcuffed Mark and read him his rights. He was then escorted to the police car, maintaining a stoic expression throughout the process. Back at the police station, Mark was formally charged with first-degree murder. During the interrogation, he continued to deny his involvement, claiming that Amanda had acted alone. However, the evidence was overwhelming. The notebook entries, Amanda's confession, and the forensic evidence all painted a clear picture of his guilt. The police believed that Mark had manipulated Amanda into helping him with this plan, using her troubled past and emotional attachment to him. The detectives continued to piece together the events leading up to the murder. They learned that Mark had meticulously planned the crime, ensuring that Amanda would have an alibi, and that evidence would initially point away from him. With Mark in custody, the police shifted their focus to preparing for the upcoming trial. They were determined to ensure that both Mark and Amanda would face the consequences of their actions. The arrest was a significant step towards justice for Jennifer Thompson, but the case was far from over. The trial for the murder of Jennifer Thompson began on November 15, 2017. The courtroom was packed with spectators, reporters, and members of Jennifer's family. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Rachel Ellis, presented a strong case against Dr. Mark Thompson. Rachel was known for her meticulous approach and passion for seeking justice. The prosecution laid out the evidence in a clear and compelling manner. They presented the notebook entries written by Amanda, which detailed her frustrations with Jennifer and hinted at a plan to remove her from the picture. They also showed the blood-stained gloves found in Amanda's apartment and the forensic analysis that linked them to Jennifer's murder. The defense, led by attorney Jonathan Rice, faced an uphill battle. Jonathan was a seasoned lawyer known for his calm demeanor and strategic thinking. He argued that Amanda acted alone out of jealousy and that Mark had no part in the crime. The defense attempted to discredit Amanda's confession, suggesting that she had been coerced by the police. Jonathan also tried to cast doubt on the forensic evidence, claiming that it was circumstantial and did not directly link Mark to the murder. After several weeks of testimony and evidence, the jury deliberated for 2 days. On December 10, 2017, they returned with a verdict. Mark Thompson was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was tense as the verdict was read. Mark remained stoic, showing little reaction. Amanda, who was also present, broke down in tears. The judge sentenced Mark to life in prison without the possibility of parole, reflecting the heinous nature of the crime and the premeditation involved. Amanda received a lighter sentence of 25 years for her role in the murder, acknowledging her cooperation with the police. The verdict brought a sense of closure to Jennifer's family, though the pain of her loss remained. They felt justice had been served, but the memories of Jennifer would always linger. The community of Willowbrook was shocked by the events, but many were relieved that the case had been resolved. The trial and its outcome had a profound impact on those involved. Jennifer's friends and family found some solace in the verdict, while Mark and Amanda faced the consequences of their actions. The story of Jennifer Thompson's murder served as a reminder of the depths of human cruelty and the importance of seeking justice. After the trial, life in Willowbrook began to settle into a new normal, though the impact of the case lingered for everyone involved. Dr. Mark Thompson was serving his life sentence at the Illinois State Penitentiary, and Amanda Walker was serving her sentence at the Logan Correctional Center. The community continued to honor Jennifer's memory through various memorials and events, ensuring that her legacy of compassion and service lived on.